You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
A North Bay transit shakeup, why officials are cutting bus routes in favor of trains.
So this is an opportunity for us to really streamline our services.
Plus, the president's immigration crackdown dredging up painful memories of how Japanese Americans were treated during the Second World War. Details of the effort to repeal a centuries-old law. And a staple in San Francisco's performing arts community getting ready to say goodbye.
I feel heartbroken, and I also am overwhelmed by the outpouring of love.
What is leading Oasis to close its doors for good, and how the spirit that defined it will live on. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday. I'm Ann Magovic. We're going to have those stories and lots more right after our news headlines today. A drowning at Aquatic Park in San Francisco. First responders were called to the public beach at around 8 o'clock last night after a man was seen in the water calling for help. He was recovered about a half an hour later by scuba divers and could not be revived. San Francisco Fire Department confirms the man was in his 50s or 60s, but they're not identifying him right now. Investigators still looking into exactly what happened. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors set to give final approval today on a new parking time limit on oversized vehicles. Instead of RVs being allowed to park overnight, the city is setting a new 2-hour parking limit. The policy will impact at least 400 recreational vehicles in the city that serve as homes for people who can't afford housing. Those living in RVs are worried what's next.
It's not easy to be in a place like this. It's not easy, but they try to do it even harder, which I don't think is right. So where are we going to move then?
The final vote comes a few months after San Francisco closed its only RV safe parking site over infrastructure issues and a high price tag. This new policy does allow some registered RVs to remain parked if they are engaging with city services. President Trump hosting Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at the White House this morning. It's after Trump threatened to impose a 20% tariff on Filipino goods on August 1st. Marcos' office says he wants to send the message that the Philippines is ready to negotiate.
Our strongest, closest, most reliable ally has always been the United States. That is something that we value, that we are grateful for, and that we will continue to foster as we go on.
On Monday, President Marcos met with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to discuss their security alliance at a time when China has been increasingly assertive in the Indo-Pacific region. President Trump pulling the U.S. from UNESCO, the United Nations scientific, educational, and cultural arm, insisting it supports woke, divisive cultural and social causes. That decision comes roughly 2 years after former President Joe Biden re-entered UNESCO following Trump's decision to withdraw during his first term. The future of the Oakland Coliseum could be taking a giant step forward today. Leaders in Alameda County are going to vote on the transfer of the Coliseum to a group of private investors at the Board of Supervisors meeting. If approved, the African American Sports and Entertainment Group would acquire the county's 50% stake in the 112-acre site. Developers plan to add housing, retail, restaurants, a hotel, and some kind of professional sports attraction to the property. All right, let's get a check on our first alert forecast. I woke up to some very gray skies. This is a look outside from our Mark Hopkins hotel cam in San Francisco. Cool and cloudy day. And as meteorologist Jessica Birch shows us, looks like we can expect more of the same this week.
Well, it's one of the coolest summers on record for us here in the Bay Area, with 60s in store for us today, anywhere from San Francisco down into Half Moon Bay. These microclimates are kind of used to this weather during this time of year with the gray skies that we wake up to each morning. But we've been noticing a very cool trend for our friends off into the inland areas too, like the East Bay and up into wine country. Upper 60s are in store for us today into Vallejo and all the way over into Novato. You make your way over into the East Bay or down into the Santa Clara Valley. We have some 60s trickled in there too in areas like Fremont. Down into San Jose this afternoon, we have 70s in store for us. It's a nice, cool day, and we're continuing that trend as we head into the next couple days, too. I'll show you what the Climate Prediction Center has to say about that in just a bit. Earlier this morning, we woke up to some really cloudy conditions, dense clouds, fog, widespread throughout the bay, and that's the trend as we head into the afternoon hours, too. Also, notice that green on the map. We still have some light drizzle and some light rain in the forecast along the peninsula and just along the mouth of the bay as we head into the next couple hours. That'll clear up into the evening hours tonight, but let's talk about our temperature outlook issued by the Climate Prediction Center. This is showing below normal conditions, not only for us here in the Bay Area, but all throughout the West Coast, really, as we head into the next 6 to 10 days. So how does that play out for us? Usually around this time of year, we're seeing 60s on the map, at least for our friends along the bay, so that's not going to change too much. We're still waking up to cloudy skies, misty conditions, 60s for our daytime highs. As we head into early next week, high pressure will build in, and that warms us up just a smidge more. But it's our inland areas that I want to keep a close eye on, because this is seasonably cool for this time of year. I mean, we're talking about 70s each day this week as we dive into this weekend's forecast. High pressure moves in, relative humidity will start to drop by Sunday with sunnier skies and some warmer weather heading into next week.
The Almaden post office that was destroyed by a crash and fire says some mail survived and is now being rerouted. Police say it was the brother of the late NFL player and Army Ranger Pat Tillman who crashed his car into the post office and caused that fire that destroyed the building. He is identified as Richard Tillman, this man's brother. Hundreds of people are waiting to see if their mail survived the fire. Kevin Coe is at the post office with more.
Today is the day that pickup mail services are back for South San Jose. However, if you have a P.O. box or got a notice to pick up your mail at the Almaden Post Office, you're going to have to drive 7 miles north to where I'm standing at the Willow Glen Post Office. The U.S. Postal Service says this is where everyone needs to come between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. today. All this, according to investigators, because of 44-year-old Richard Tillman, the brother of the late NFL star and U.S. Army Ranger Pat Tillman. Richard was arrested for allegedly driving into the Almaden Post Office early Sunday morning. Neighbors say they heard what sounded like a loud explosion before a fire broke out and they saw a man near the flames. Investigators believe that man is Richard Tillman, who they say reversed his car into the post office lobby before setting it on fire. More on his case in a minute, but we have to talk about the effects to mail services to South San Jose. There have been delays, but also some are concerned their mail was destroyed.
We have a check that's supposed to have been coming today for $87,000. It was inheritance money for my wife. It's crazy somebody could run into a building like that.
Looking ahead, Richard Tillman is expected to be in court on Wednesday for an arraignment hearing. He's been held in custody without bail. He faces several federal charges for not only damaging a government building, but also destroying mail.
New questions around the deadly shooting of a parole agent in Oakland and why the suspect was even out of prison in the first place. Police say suspect Brian Hall shot and killed parole agent Joshua Byrd last week. Hall appeared in court, but his arraignment got pushed to August 22nd. He is charged with murder of a peace officer, firearm possession, and vehicle theft. Prosecutors say those could come with enhancements that could add years to his sentence. Alameda County District Attorney says Hall and Byrd had no connection. Byrd wasn't even his parole agent. Hall showed up to the office a day late for an appointment. And now we're learning more about how Brian Hall ended up back on the streets. He has a long criminal history, including an arrest in 2022 for stabbing a stranger in the neck. Prosecutors originally charged him with attempted murder, but in January, Hall took a plea deal for assault and walked free the next month. Former DA Pamela Price says her office had nothing to do with the deal, but current DA Ursula Jones-Dixon says a directive from Price's term blocked them from pushing for a longer sentence. Without it, she says Hall could have served years behind bars.
As a result of none of those enhancements and none of the strikes, he got 4 years at halftime, so he did 2 years in custody. Had he had that same allegation with the enhancements and strikes, we would have been looking at more like 12 years at 85%. So that's a huge difference in time.
Jones-Dixon says if Hall is convicted on all charges, he's facing a possible sentence of life without parole. Meantime, friends are sharing memories of Agent Byrd and his legacy. He gave back to his community by joining the Pig Bowl. It's a first responders charity football game in Sacramento. One teammate says he was more than a coworker. He was family.
I want Josh to be remembered as an individual who cared about everybody else. Everything he did was for someone else. He didn't do things to glorify himself, to get extra credit.
Next year's Pig Bowl will include a tribute to Bird. He is survived by his wife and 3 children. Still ahead here on CBS News Bay Area, a fixture of San Francisco's LGBTQ art scene and nightlife closing its doors because of financial struggles. We're looking back at the history of the Oasis nightclub and what's next. Plus, while Bay Area public transit is struggling with a shrinking ridership, there is a major transit shakeup in the North Bay.
People have embraced that this is a very reliable way to get around.
The change is on the way to match the growing ridership for smart trains.
Well, it's been a very cool summer for us, widespread throughout the Bay Area. Daytime highs today in the Bay, still holding on tight to 60s with cloudy skies each morning, trying to break apart into the afternoon hours, but it's really hard to do so. We're also noticing a little bit of that coastal mist that's going to move its way in, a little bit of drizzle in those early morning hours that starts to taper off. But in our inland spots, we're also experiencing this nice cooling trend. The Climate Prediction Center is showing the next 6 to 10 days still below average, and we're definitely noticing it already this week with 70s in store for us each day till Saturday.
It has been just over 6 months since Daniel Lurie was sworn in as San Francisco's mayor, and it seems like people are feeling pretty good about his tenure. A new poll from the San Francisco Chronicle found that nearly 3/4 of registered voters, 73%, approve of Mayor Lurie, just 25% disapproving. That is an enormous shift from last July, when 71% of likely voters said they disapproved of former Mayor London Breed, who lost to Lurie in November. We spoke with Lurie in studio 2 weeks ago, and he said it's not just locals feeling better about the city.
We are starting to see that vibe shift in what people are saying about us nationally and internationally. We were just named the culinary capital of the country. Our airport was just named one of the best airports in the world. We have Moscone bookings are up 50%, hotel bookings are up 60% year over year. The data proves that we are a city on the rise, and I'm optimistic about our future.
And when it comes to specific issues, Lurie's approval rating varies wildly. He rates highly when it comes to revitalizing downtown and keeping people safe from crime. But just under half of people polled approve of how he's handling the overdose crisis. And the rate drops further when it comes to providing shelter for the homeless and reasonably priced housing. San Francisco's downtown area was not spared by the effects of the pandemic, obviously, and many businesses still struggling to recover, and that includes the famed San Francisco drag club Oasis. The club's co-founder says they've been struggling with razor-thin margins, and they can't afford to operate anymore with plans to close by the end of the year. Amanda Harry talked with that owner about the club's history and what's next.
The show will go on at Oasis, but only for a little bit longer. Co-founder Darcy Drollinger announced Monday that the nightclub will shut its doors for good by January 1st, 2026.
I feel heartbroken, and I also am overwhelmed by the outpouring of love.
Drollinger was emotional as he spoke about what Oasis has meant to him.
This place is my life, and you know, we've been around for 11 years, and I've blood, sweat, and tears to make this space and community viable.
Despite being a top destination for drag and queer entertainment, they never made a profit, especially after the pandemic. Every month, he's been subsidizing the club, cashing out the majority of his retirement to do so.
It really made me realize what we do here, as fabulous as it is, isn't sustainable anymore.
But Monday night, just hours after the news of the closure, the club was full. Drollinger says it's a happy coincidence that the announcement fell on the same day as the Heclina tribute show to raise money to digitize and organize tapes of her work. Drollinger co-founded Oasis with Heclina, and people gathered at Oasis back in 2023 when she died.
This has been a place for people all the time to show up when they needed a space to be together. And I feel like, you know, there's a lot of people here for Heclina, but there's also a lot of people here that just need to feel a sense of community tonight.
J.A. Valentine has been both a performer and a patron of the club, calling it a home away from home. He says the community is something special.
This audience is like nothing else. The camaraderie that happens backstage, the theater that gets produced, and I think what I like best about all the shows here are that no one's ever satisfied with where they're at. It always needs to be the best laugh possible.
Valentine and Drollinger are hopeful those laughs will continue. Drollinger plans to continue programming shows through his nonprofit, Oasis Arts.
And that isn't going to go away. And so I'm hoping that that can continue to support artists in some shape or form. It might be in other venues or other events.
Drollinger announced the closure early so people would come out and say one last goodbye. He hopes they'll have enough support to keep operating for the rest of the year. The club opened on New Year's Eve in 2014. He feels it would be poetic to close on New Year's Eve as well.
I'm profoundly grateful and so proud of what we've done. And, you know, I wish that it could continue. And I hope that this inspires someone else to create a space that can be this for so many people.
And I've been there for a few shows. It is a fun place. As Bay Area Public Transit struggles to deal with shrinking commuter demand, one agency is about to expand its service. Results of a study showing that people prefer to take a train rather than a bus. And it's creating an opportunity to reorganize how people use transit up and down the Highway 101 corridor. John Ramos takes a look at the changes.
The San Rafael Transit Center is one of the busiest in the Bay Area, second only to the Salesforce Center in San Francisco. A number of different transit agencies intersect here, and there's an effort underway to make the system run more efficiently. All roads in the North Bay seem to lead to San Rafael, at least most of the public transit providers. This hub is the meeting point for Marin Transit, Golden Gate Transit, and the Smart Commuter Train Line, among others.
It's already very important. It will continue to be important, and we're actually undertaking a project to redesign and relocate the San Rafael Transit Center to accommodate a growth in transit service.
That growth may be a case of addition by subtraction. A recent study shows that transit in the North Bay has a lot of duplication of service. For example, Golden Gate Transit has buses going clear up to Santa Rosa, the same service area as SMART. It also has stops in the same urban areas as Marin Transit. So a new plan has been developed called Mascots, short for Marin-Sonoma Coordinated Transit Service, that will hopefully cut out the redundancy.
Mascots really refocuses Golden Gate on really focused on the regional trips. So Golden Gate will have fewer stops and really focus on express service that's getting people between major transit hubs in Marin County into San Francisco and into the East Bay. And Marin Transit will really refocus our resources on making sure the local stops are covered.
So one of the most interesting findings of the study is that 70% of Marin-Sonoma travel to San Francisco originates from San Rafael or south.
So Golden Gate will focus on that area, limiting its service only up to Novato, requiring travelers to use SMART from any place farther north. It's only happening because SMART, after some initial bumps along the way, has proven itself to be a fairly popular transit option.
We're seeing that in our ridership numbers right now. SMART is experiencing record ridership. People have embraced that this is a very reliable way to get around. We too have been, here at SMART, have tried to stay agile in response to changed commute patterns where people are maybe commuting to work part of the week, maybe doing a 2-3 split, 3 days at home and 2 days in the office.
SMART will see an increase in service of nearly 20% and will start hiring new people to begin training almost immediately. The hope is that the coordinated effort will not only provide a less confusing system for riders, but also save some much needed money for the operators.
It's not just here in the Bay Area. This is happening in metro areas all over the country. Transit agencies all over the region are re-examining in some cases decades-long service plans because the travel patterns have changed in a big way all over the Bay Area. And at the same time, transit agencies are strapped for operating cash, so they need to operate more efficiently.
Except for the planning process, the new program shouldn't cost anything. In fact, it should save money. And the cost of expanding SMART is expected to be covered by the increase in ridership.
A series of public meetings about the reorganization plan will begin tonight in Marin City. In all, 9 North Bay transit agencies are joining in on this Mascots plan. The changes in service are expected to begin sometime next April. Still ahead here on CBS News Bay Area. A new law here in California has sent the demand for breast milk surging. The explanation and the people working around the clock to help mothers get what they need.
next 6 to 10 days is showing below normal conditions for us here in California when it comes to our daytime highs. As the low pressure moves in, it's keeping us nice and cool. A little bit below average, of course, especially along our coastline, but noticeably in our inland areas where usually we're talking about 90s and triple digits in some of our inland spots around this time of year in the middle of July. So this is great. We welcome this, especially in our inland areas. This is great hiking weather, dog walking weather. Of course, we would love to see a little bit more sunshine, but it's also no sky July. We're used to that marine layer filling the bay around this time of year. Now, as we head into the next couple, you'll notice it more in our inland areas compared to our friends along the bay, where 60s only turn into 70s as early as next Monday.
The demand for breast milk is surging after a new state law loosened some restrictions on what can be given to babies in the hospital. Our Suji Nam takes us inside a local milk bank and introduces us to the team who is collecting what they call liquid gold.
Today we got about 24 coolers in.
Cynthia Potacek makes sure every breast milk donation is squared away at Mother's Milk Bank, California.
And on the bottom there are our larges.
About 1,200 screen donors serve this nonprofit organization based in San Jose. But recently, Potacek, the donor services team lead, says there has been a greater need.
We have an increased demand for milk at this time, and so we're really reaching out to our community, hoping for their support.
Ever since a recent state bill known as the Human Milk Bill passed, the bank has seen a 30% increase in demand from hospitals all over California, especially in the Bay Area. Hospitals now have fewer legal hurdles to store and distribute milk donations.
It has made it easier for hospitals to use milk. They no longer are required to have a tissue bank license, and also commercial insurance companies are now covering this life-saving nutrition.
Potacek has been busier than ever trying to meet this demand.
Here in the thaw room, we do need to cover our hair.
It's an arduous process once families ship their frozen breast milk to the milk bank. The staff thaws the milk before homogenizing it. Then it's bottled, pasteurized, and then frozen again.
Because the sample is sent out to the county, we're required to wait until we get confirmation that it's safe, and then we're able to ship it out to our hospitals.
Mother's Milk Bank ships out about 7,000 ounces of milk daily to about 60% of hospitals in California.
These are the...
Tessa Elkins, a San Jose mother, has donated 3,000 ounces of milk.
Families in need who aren't able to produce breast milk for their babies. So I wanted to be able to do that.
Donations from new mothers like Elkins help save lives of NICU babies, infants whose mothers may not be able to breastfeed, and even foster babies.
And if it's just 2 ounces at a time, all of that milk can save a baby's life.
And with this teamwork of compassionate Bay Area mothers, the mission is personal.
I personally pumped for my son when he was in the hospital, and so I know how stressful it can be.
And Potacek hopes that more mothers can jump in and help.
Breast milk isn't just nutrition, it's medicine.
Because every ounce of milk can save a child's life.
The Mother's Milk Bank California says more than 16 million ounces of milk were dispensed thanks to more than 25,000 donors in the past 50 years. Pop icon Lady Gaga's Mayhem Ball Tour is making a stop at Chase Center today in San Francisco. This is a part of Gaga's first world tour since 2018. It follows her big Coachella appearance. The Grammy and Oscar award winner, is bringing 3 nights of mayhem to the city with shows tonight, Thursday, and Saturday. And Caltrain rolling out its special themed cars for the show with an onboard costume and look-alike contest, plus merch giveaways. You can find those cars on the northbound 523 express train. Coming up in the next half hour here on CBS News Bay Area, members of the Japanese American community vowing not to suffer injustice.
Everybody should understand why it's wrong, and that's why I'm involved in this fight.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Thanks for staying with us this Tuesday. I'm Ann Makovic, and here's another look at some of our news headlines. A drowning at Aquatic Park in San Francisco. First responders were called to the public beach at around 8 o'clock last night after a man was seen in the water calling for help. He was recovered a half an hour later by scuba divers and could not be revived. We know he was in his 50s or 60s, but his name has still not been released. Investigators looking into exactly what happened. President Trump hosting Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., at the White House this morning after Trump threatened to impose a 20% tariff on Filipino goods on August 1st. Marcos' office says he wants to send the message that the Philippines is ready to negotiate. Board of Supervisors in San Francisco set to give final approval today to a new parking time limit on oversized vehicles. Instead of RVs being allowed to park overnight, the city is setting a new 2-hour parking limit. The policy will impact at least 400 recreational vehicles in the city that now serve as homes for people who can't afford housing. This new policy does allow some registered RVs to remain parked if they are engaging with city services. All right, it has been a gray morning around the Bay. Let's get another check on our first alert forecast with meteorologist Jessica Birch.
Well, it's one of the coolest summers on record for us here in the Bay Area, with 60s in store for us today, anywhere from San Francisco down into Half Moon Bay. These microclimates are kind of used to this weather during this time of year with the gray skies that we wake up to each morning. But we've been noticing a very cool trend for our friends off into the inland areas too, like the East Bay and up into wine country. Upper 60s are in store for us today into Vallejo and all the way over into Novato. You make your way over into the East Bay or down into the Santa Clara Valley. We have some 60s trickled in there too in areas like Fremont. Down into San Jose this afternoon, we have 70s in store for us. It's a nice, cool day, and we're continuing that trend as we head into the next couple days too. I'll show you what the Climate Prediction Center has to say about that in just a bit. Earlier this morning, we woke up to some really cloudy conditions, dense clouds, fog, widespread throughout the bay, and that's the trend as we head into the afternoon hours too. Also notice that green on the map. We still have some light drizzle and some light rain in the forecast along the peninsula and just along the mouth of the bay as we head into the next couple hours. That'll clear up into the evening hours tonight, but let's talk about our temperature outlook issued by the Climate Prediction Center. This is showing below normal conditions, not only for us here in the Bay Area, but all throughout the West Coast, really, as we head into the next 6 to 10 days. So how does that play out for us? Usually around this time of year, we're seeing 60s on the map, at least for our friends along the bay, so that's not going to change too much. We're still waking up to cloudy skies, misty conditions, 60s for our daytime highs. As we head into early next week, high pressure will build in, and that warms us up just a smidge more. But it's our inland areas that I want to keep a close eye on, because this is seasonably cool for this time of year. I mean, we're talking about 70s each day this week as we dive into this weekend's forecast. High pressure moves in, relative humidity will start to drop by Sunday with sunnier skies and some warmer weather heading into next week.
The Trump administration just released a massive collection of 230,000 pages connected to the investigation into the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On Monday, the Director of National Intelligence released those documents, including details about the FBI's investigation of the killing and files related to the former cellmate of the man convicted in the case, James Earl Ray. Some of King's family support the release, while others say the release opens old wounds and risks distorting the legacy of the civil rights leader. Well, on the campaign trail, President Trump promised supporters an aggressive crackdown on illegal immigration. Became a signature issue in the election, and since taking office, the president and his administration have tried to deliver on that promise. The approach has been aggressive, and the method and the message have been unapologetic. In March, he invoked the Alien Enemies Act for the first time since World War II.
That was a bad group of, as I say, hombres.
That declaration granted the president expansive wartime powers to quickly detain and deport people in the country illegally, so-called alien enemies. Under the law, more than 300 men, allegedly members of a Venezuelan gang, ended up in a notorious prison in El Salvador. Last week, a deal was struck to send those men back home to their native country in exchange for the release of 10 Americans jailed in Venezuela. But the controversy does not end there. There are still many legal challenges to the president's use of the Alien Enemies Act. We're going to hear from a law professor coming up in just a moment to get the perspective as well of a local Republican leader. But first, we're beginning with members of the Japanese American community who are now calling for the act to be repealed. They say the president's use of the law was a gut punch. They were staggered in part because they thought history had already rendered a verdict. They say the mood in the country today is eerily reminiscent of the months after Pearl Harbor. And as Devin Feely shows us, they fear that the country is at risk of repeating the sins of the past.
December 7th, 1941. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air. A date which will live in infamy.
I don't want this to happen to anybody again.
When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, our west coast became a potential combat zone.
In March, all the Japanese kids just stopped going to school.
All Japanese within the coastal area should move inland.
By May, they were gone.
It's a terrible violation of civil rights. There's no question about it.
For Tom Izu and Susan Hayase, President Trump's immigration crackdown dredges up painful memories.
My mother's family was moved to Gila River, Arizona.
My mom spent her entire high school career in Poston.
Of how their parents and tens of thousands of other Japanese Americans were mistreated during the Second World War.
Some among them were potentially dangerous.
These are foreign terrorists operating on our soil.
All persons of Japanese descent were required to register.
And it's impossible, they say, not to hear echoes of that painful past.
I got a message. You better start packing now.
All of them, citizens and aliens alike, would have to move.
The largest deportation campaign in American history.
In the present day.
I can tell you this, these were bad people.
Being exiled to a concentration camp, that's a pretty serious assault on your personhood.
The couple is trying to mobilize opposition to the president's use of the Alien Enemies Act, the same arcane law used to justify the imprisonment of Japanese Americans during World War II.
Everybody should understand why it's wrong, and that's why I'm involved in this fight to abolish the Alien Enemies Act and to make sure people understand that this is against our Constitution on the most fundamental level to do this to people.
Since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
It has been more than 80 years since the Alien Enemies Act was last invoked. 14 American presidents have come and gone from the Oval Office, including Donald Trump himself, before dusting off the law in his second term.
It's bigotry. It's hysteria.
Former Congressman Mike Honda was an infant when his family was forcibly relocated to Camp Amache in southeast Colorado. He says it pains him to see the law weaponized yet again against another group of immigrants, especially after trying and failing to repeal it during his time in Congress.
Somehow we have to build a fire under people's feet and get them to understand that Trump has his knee on our neck.
Tom and Susan say they know there is little appetite, no real interest in the current Republican-controlled Congress to repeal the act, but have vowed not to suffer this injustice in silence.
This really resonated with Japanese Americans and made people really angry and outraged. It was like a nightmare come true.
A waking nightmare, they say, with the eyes of the world watching.
We are setting a standard for the rest of the world in the treatment of people who may have loyalties to an enemy nation.
And the judgment of history waiting.
We are protecting ourselves without violating the principles of Christian decency.
Well, despite all the legal challenges, the Supreme Court has yet to weigh in directly on the core constitutional issue. We talked with UCSF law professor Bill Hing. He specializes in immigration law and doubts the high court will side with the Trump administration.
We're not at war with Venezuela. That's not been a declared war. They are not invading our country. There's just no evidence of that. And so I just don't see any basis for the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act. And I think that ultimately that's what the Supreme Court is going to rule.
We also talked with a Trump supporter and Republican leader in the South Bay and asked him if he had any concerns about the breakneck speed at which the Trump administration is detaining and deporting people.
In the scope of history, obviously it depends on who writes it, what they say. But I think what's being done is what needs to be done to make our country safe and secure, and it's what the president promised when he ran for office. And to do anything less than to keep his promises on immigration would be a disservice.
Legal experts say it could take the Supreme Court a year or longer to tackle the central issue of whether or not President Trump can invoke a wartime law to accelerate his deportation campaign. Coming up next, might not look like much right now, but we're going to meet the neighbors in Oakland who want to transform this neglected lot into something much more appealing.
I think Oakland's a great place to live, and I think it has a lot of corners that need some love.
Well, it's been a very cool summer for us, widespread throughout the Bay Area. Daytime highs today in the Bay, still holding on tight to 60s with cloudy skies each morning, trying to break apart into the afternoon hours, but it's really hard to do so. We're also noticing a little bit of that coastal mist that's going to move its way in, a little bit of drizzle in those early morning hours that starts to taper off. But in our inland spots, we're also experiencing this nice cooling trend. The Climate Prediction Center is showing the next 6 to 10 days still below average, and we're definitely noticing it already this week with 70s in store for us each day till Saturday.
The 49ers reporting for training camp today in Santa Clara at Levi's and then on the field for their first practice on Wednesday. And with the 49ers training camp ramping up this week, we want to let you know CBS News Bay Area is your home for Niners preseason football. We're counting down to the first preseason game. That is when the Broncos come to Levi's on Saturday, August 9th. It's coming right up. You can watch the game at 5:30 p.m. on KPIX. A group of neighbors in Oakland working to transform a neglected lot into a vibrant native garden that will support bees, butterflies, and overall community well-being. Organizers of the effort say they've already gotten Caltrans approval, and now they're in the fundraising stage. They estimate that they'll need about $30,000 to fully realize the garden's potential. And this would all be happening at 54th and Shattuck, an often overlooked portion of North Oakland. Leaders of the project tell our Max Darrow they were tired of waiting around for someone else to create the beauty they want to see in the town.
When Vincent Kitarachagarn looks at this dilapidated, overgrown vacant lot at 54th and Shattuck in Oakland, he calls a spade a spade.
This corner's always kind of been, neglected. It attracts illegal dumping. There's always graffiti here.
But he also sees possibility and thinks of the famous Louis Armstrong song, What a Wonderful World.
He goes, I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And that's really what I want here. We need more beautiful public spaces in Oakland, and this should be one of those spaces.
So he and neighbors are now working to turn that idea into reality by transforming the lot, which is owned by Caltrans, into a community pollinator garden. And this is what that vision looks like.
We're going to keep those redwood trees because they're a great part of the space right now. And we're going to create a bunch of pollinator plants around it with a walking path, as well as areas for seating. And so you're going to see this completely transformed.
The hope is that it will help alleviate problems with illegal dumping and blight, a problem many people in the town want to see fixed.
The quality of life has declined in Oakland, it feels like, significantly in the last 5 years or so.
Including Rob Selna.
I'm a fourth-generation Oakland resident.
Who is helping bring this idea to life.
It feels as though it's a time where more than ever, members of the public need to step up and fill in some of the gaps that the city has left.
Selna has experience on this front. He's the president of the group Sidewalk Trees and Gardens, and 10 years ago, he and neighbors created the Temescal Community Garden.
What you see here now represents a transformation of a street that was really secluded, blighted, and a target for criminal and bad activity.
When community-led efforts like this arise, there sometimes are people who will say it's the city's job to fix these kinds of problems.
People are concerned about their communities, and at the moment, the city of Oakland, for a variety of reasons, doesn't have the money to take care of them. So you can decide, well, I'm just going to abandon this city and move on because they don't have the money to take care of it, or I'm going to help to bring the city back.
Back on Shattuck and 54th, Vincent says they've acquired the necessary Caltrans permits to proceed. They're fundraising now with a goal of starting construction in October.
I think Oakland's a great place to live, and I think it has a lot of corners that need some love, right? So this is just one of those corners, and we're hoping that we can start something here and hopefully copy-paste it, across the city into other places that need it.
The cross-pollination of ideas, helping a volunteer effort to turn blight into beauty, bloom.
There is an online fundraiser for the garden. Vince and Rob say they imagine the work will likely be all volunteer, just as it was with the Temescal Community Garden. As for the permitting process, it didn't happen overnight. Rob said they had to acquire several permits, which took around a year to get done. Coming up, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, why astronomers all over the world are so excited about a comet that they recently spotted in space.
Oh, thank you so much.
An ultra-rare comet is rushing toward the sun. Our Brian Hackney shows us why it has astronomers around the world so excited.
This is Chabot Space and Science Center, and this is space expert Gerald McKeegan.
I got interested in astronomy when I was a kid.
And as a grown-up, he's got quite the telescope. This massive, century-old Chabot refractor, which has seen planets, galaxies, and the occasional comet. You remember your first comet?
Oh gosh, in the 1990s we had Hale-Bopp and Hyakutake, but for us astronomers, there are a lot more comets out there that we can't see with our naked eye, but we can see with our telescopes.
Just 2 weeks ago, one of those telescopes in Rio Hurtado, Chile, spotted one of the most extraordinary comets ever seen. Designated 3I Atlas. It's this tiny moving smudge against a forest of stars.
And it came into the solar system at amazingly high speed of 135,000 miles per hour.
Davide Farnokia is with the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena.
This is really exceptional. You have to be an interstellar object to be going that fast at that distance from the sun.
That's right. 3I Atlas is only the third object ever known to have come from another solar system light years away.
We don't know exactly where it came from. The direction that it's approaching our solar system is from the constellation Sagittarius, which is in the direction of the center of our galaxy.
This particular needle was picked out of the intergalactic haystack by NASA's Atlas system, meant to detect asteroids that might hit Earth.
But as you scan the sky to find asteroids, you're going to trap or discover other things.
At the moment, the comet is inside the orbit of Jupiter, headed for a close approach of the sun in October. So, two questions.
This is no threat to Earth.
No, absolutely not. It doesn't come anywhere close to Earth.
And as for seeing the ultra-rare comet,
you won't be able to see it with the naked eye, but it's actually pretty easy with a moderate-sized telescope.
In the meantime, scientists have just a few months to answer some big questions.
Where did it come from? What does it look like? And especially, what is its composition?
So it's a rare opportunity, and as a scientific community, we want to collect as many data as possible to characterize this object and learn as much as we can.
Well, thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ann Makovic. We're going to be right back with your first alert forecast and another look at your top stories.